award, TOPOS Landscape Award 2009, is presented to the Sydney-based Australian firm McGregor and Coxall, the name from today on. And this award is not only for these two guys here, it's for the whole team. The team is awarded. And we present this to the two partners, Adrian and Philip, right now, the Minister of the Environment.
Amongst us, we have prize winners from the opposite side of the world, where the weather conditions and wasteness of land and conditions are very different from ours. However, it can be said that our goals are the same regarding nature and to support protection and sustainability in design and planning. In Iceland, landscape has yet to be defined, to be used in regulatory terms. However, a considerable amount of work has been done to bring us nearer the conclusion. To stand firm on planning decisions is also a subject that came through time and time again in discussion which took place with various groups in the planning agencies, many seminars. Amongst other things that were voiced and criticized as the lack of long-term vision was the lack of long-term vision Icelandic politicians seem to have. For some reason or another, most of them seem to have tendency to make short-term decisions. It's always a question about the next election. We should look ahead to the long future and consider what the impact of our decisions every day will have on future generations and how they will judge our decisions. To emphasize the thought for the long-time future, I will close by telling you the story which Eric Holding told of the new college in Oxford. It was built in 1386, a stone building with a great roof made of very old wood. The people who were in charge of the maintenance realized that the roof would one day need to be replaced. In order for this to be possible sometime in the long future, they planted a sufficient number of oak trees within the college grounds in order for the roof material to be ready and available when needed for future generations. We should be led in our decision making by thinking about and being aware of what people might think and say about us and our decisions in 10 years' time, in 100 years' time, in 1,000 years' time. Thank you very much.
So, alarmingly also, we have 1 in 3 of our urban dwellers living in slums, which is something that I think that probably certainly us as an office are certainly not involved in projects in India or any of these places, but it shows the predicament that we have. Half our people living in cities and a third of those in slums. So these are big issues for the human race. We're in the greatest age, I think, of architectural exploration. This is Dubai. Dubai, I think, had 25% of the world's cranes in it last year, was estimated. Now, you look at this desert landscape, you look at this place, and you know that the economy has just collapsed entirely. So you can see how oil is shaping the urbanisation of our cities. And what happens when that runs out? The desert just reclaims this. Where do the people go? I mean, what happens? What is the future for these cities? So cities have also been able to, through cheap oil, they've been able to live well beyond their means. They've been able to reach out with their tentacles, and some of the things that invisibly lie underneath our cities that we don't experience, but they're going on. The energy flows, the pathways, of material flowing out in and out of our cities. And this is an image that kind of shows some of those flows. I think these are flights. But our cities now are able to we're able to buy a tomato from Chile, we're able to buy a kiwi fruit from New Zealand. None of these things are barriers to how we live. We can have whatever we want, whenever we want it. And how long can that go on? And certainly without cheap oil, these global trends cannot be sustained. Food and agriculture, our monocultures, agricultural monocultures are entirely reliant on oil. They're reliant on oil for cultivation, for planting, for harvesting, for processing, for distribution, for marketing, for purchase. All of that is pervasive right across those systems. If we don't have oil, how do we feed ourselves in this system? You know? So the idea is under biocity that cities start to become more reliant on their local economies. And Iceland is a good case in point, where the economy is imploded and the community is left sitting saying, what is our future? How do we recreate our economy? You know, we thought that we were heading in a direction, now we're going in a completely different direction. This is Parramatta Road, 23 kilometres. It was an international competition that we won, and it's an urban sewer that runs right through the centre of Sydney. Essentially 80,000 cars a day run through it. But this is the geographic heart of the city. And interestingly enough, Sydney is more interested in building urban sprawl at the periphery of the city than it is with infilling the centre of the city. It's madness. We have a metropolitan planning strategy that is proposing that we build over our agricultural land that provides the fresh food for the city, and we put sprawl and houses on top of it. It's absolute madness. So again, it's looking at more than, or it's looking at how landscape as a green infrastructure can in fact provide services to urban development, how those things can gel together and not be considered as separate elements.
What's going on here? So with that mentality set, and added to the fact that they believe that this landscape didn't really have a history until they arrived, these guys set about, including us in this, we set about taming the landscape. And it's a wonderful concept, taming the landscape. This sense that it's there waiting for us to really take control of. And with great European zeal, we set about doing exactly that, cutting down the trees and making it as we would see it. We also took the privilege of taming the local Aboriginals. And we set our own culture, the future, the way that we see ourselves today, this bright new Australia, this sense of identity. Vegemite, I don't know if you've ever eaten it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And this iconic image of Australia, this relaxed culture that sits on the beach, everybody having a great time, and then of course the iconic image of our great city, Sydney. You can't deny the underlying beauty of Sydney. But unfortunately, underneath all that is the fact that we really haven't come to terms with our landscape. Whilst we might have established this new identity, we really have not at any stage come to terms with our landscape, despite just over 200 years of it. In fact, we're now in a situation where we're struggling to really come to terms with this landscape. And it's fascinating to consider that a developed culture, I love this word, developed culture, intelligent culture, 200 years plus, has nearly destroyed this landscape. And a culture that's undeveloped has survived in that for 40,000 years. It could have quite easily done. And I think it's pertinent when we're talking about sustainability to consider this. Is it innate in the developed cultures to destroy what we have? And I think there's an interesting quiz there.
Yes.
Can we go closer?
Yeah. You'll make a heart attack, Leah. Yeah, exactly.